You're live, and we're getting
audio.
Hey,
Audio's working.
Yay,
Live's working.
We fixed it, everybody.
Microphone is working. Thank you, microphone.
Thank you, microphone.
Yeah, microphone's working. Okay, let's get started here then.
Let's
5,
do a podcast.
4. Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly source of information on movies, TV, music, video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name's Mike. His name is Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt. His name is Mike. Welcome back to the Media Boat Podcast. This is episode 316. Today is January 29th, 2022. Almost done with January already. Can you believe it?
Yes. But then again, this last week felt like forever.
It really did. It really did. I don't know what was in the air this week, but well, it's probably because your anticipation for your Los Angeles Rams to see if they make it to the Super Bowl.
Oh, but we'll get to that, later.
But
yeah.
In the meantime, we have a podcast to do.
Yes, episode 316, because Stone Cold said so.
Sure, yes.
We'll get into a little bit of
long-time listeners.
Stone
Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, out in Austin, Texas. Definitely listens to this podcast.
Definitely, it's his favorite.
Yes.
Shout out to...
Anytime an episode reaches episode 316, he has to listen to it. It's by contract.
Yes. Shout out to our friend Alex, who is obsessed with Stone Cold. I'm sure she'd be happy to know that this is his favorite podcast.
No, favorite podcast episode. Yeah. Specifically, all 316 episodes.
All 316. All right.
So, with that nice intro out of the way, let's get right into our podcast. And we start with music, and we start with the Billboard.
Yes, we do.
Yep, and we always start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And number one song is Easy on Me by Adele.
Because, of course.
Again. And number 2, We Don't Talk About Bruno.
No.
By various artists on the Encanto soundtrack at number 2.
Yep.
Coming in at 3, Heat Waves by Glass Animals. At number 4, Stay by the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber.
Mm-hmm.
And new, coming into the top 5, Super Gremlin by Kodak Black.
Super Gremlin. When I saw that, I had to look at it 3 times to make sure I was typing the correct thing. Because I was like, it's such a weird name.
Yes, but also so is Kodak Black.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Super Gremlin.
Gremlin. Also the Kid Laroi.
Yeah.
And Glass Animals.
The Kid Laroi!
Yes, all caps, always yelling.
Yes.
Anyways, congratulations on making it to the top 5.
You did it.
As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, at number 1, Encanto, the soundtrack, the Sweeping the Nation, yes. Lin-Manuel's written music.
It's the second time it's at number 1. It was briefly dethroned by the Gunna record, but back at number 1 this week.
Yep. People still wanted to listen to Bruno.
Turns out.
At number 2, DS Forever by Gunna drops down to number 2. Coming in at 3, Dawn FM by The Weeknd.
Yep.
At 4, 30 by Adele. And number 5, Dangerous, the double album by Morgan Wallen.
It won't die.
I don't think that gremlin was long enough.
Well, we don't want this podcast to be 2 hours long.
Well, no. See, that gremlin was only long enough for a single album. This is the double album.
Okay, double-length grown next time.
If you didn't like any of those albums, or you want to contribute to something else entering the top 5 next
please.
We have new releases.
We do.
So these releases aren't for this currently released. These are for upcoming next Friday.
Yes.
Including Time Skiffs by Animal Collective.
Yep.
Ants from Up There by Black Country New Road. Pompeii by Kat Laban.
Kate Laban.
Kate Laban.
There's an E there.
Not to be confused with Pompeii by Bastille.
No, very different.
But that does mean we also have Give Me the Future by Bastille.
It's true.
Don't get confused when picking albums there.
Yes.
There's also Requiem by Korn.
Yes, that Korn.
And Laurel Hell by Mitski.
Yeah, that Mitski record's finally out.
Yes.
I'll listen to that next week.
I knew you're going to say that.
I will talk about it next week.
That's next week's problems. This week, even though this is music, we're going to get into some beef here.
Yeah. Do you like beef?
I mean, yes, but I also don't like people who don't eat beef.
Oh, well. Anyway, you didn't leave me much of a segue there. There's some beef happening in the music world this week. 2 stories that are about beefing people.
Yes.
So proud of yourself, aren't you?
No,
anyway.
I was going to go with the 303 reference there.
Oh, God. Stupid. Anyway, so not even gonna. No, I'm not going to give you that.
No?
No, I'm not going to give you
All
that.
right, if you understood that reference, that was for you.
That's for you. If you're still holding on to your 303 records at home.
You know, or going to the When We Were Young, festival, because that'll have some 303 in there.
It might have some beef in it too. So who's beefing?
Ooh, so old man yells at cloud. Neil Young.
Well, cloud streaming, I guess you can say.
Yes, Neil Young yells at Spotify,
but for good reason.
Oh, I didn't say it was for a bad reason. I just said old man yells at cloud.
So
while also a joke, also still relevant.
So what's going on with Neil Young and Spotify?
Well, Spotify has decided to remove Neil Young's music from his platform per his request.
Yes.
Following Neil Young's objections to Joe Rogan's statements about the COVID-19 vaccine on his multi-million-dollar Spotify-hosted show.
Yes.
The music is expected to be removed.
So this past Wednesday,
it was officially removed. A rep from Spotify said in a statement, quote, "We want all the world's music and audio content to be available to Spotify users. With great power comes great responsibility in balancing both safety for listeners and freedom for creators. We have detailed content policies in place, and we've removed over 20,000 podcast episodes related to COVID since the start of the pandemic. We regret Neil's decision to remove his music from Spotify, but hope to welcome him back soon."
There is,
end quote.
There's so many gymnastics happening, so many flips happening in that sentence. They're trying to balance on a really tight rope here.
Yes.
Where they're trying to say, it's like, oh, well, you know, the weird Joe Rogan podcast where he talked about the vaccine. Oh, we secretly removed those, even though we told no one we were doing that. Maybe even Joe Rogan doesn't know. Well, but we did it. We swear we did it.
It also doesn't specifically say those Joe Rogan.
No,
podcasts.
It doesn't. There's nothing about it.
It says just 20,000 podcast episodes in general.
And nowhere does it say that they're going to do anything moving forward. Anyways, it's not like Joe Rogan all of a sudden changed his mind.
No.
It's like, it's like, sorry. And the next show he does is like, all of a sudden, no, I think everybody should get the shot. No, of course he's not going to do that. So Spotify will continue to give a platform for a dude that still has this opinion. It's changed nothing about Spotify doing business with Joe Rogan. Instead, all it means is that they're basically trying to say that they did the right thing when they did nothing. It's just frustrating. Anyways, that's not the end of the story.
Oh, no, it's not. Because Spotify's market capitalization fell about $2.1 billion over a 3-day span this week, coming after Neil Young yanked his songs from the streaming site.
Yeah.
Shares of Spotify fell 6% from January 26th to the 28th. Over the same period of time in tech-heavy NASDAQ composite site, the index rose 1.7%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average went up 1.1%. Over in cryptocurrency world, that actually continued to fall, following a weeks-long massacre to the NFTs.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there.
That's neither here or there.
But one of the interesting things that's happened in the wake of this is that a lot of other artists have shown their support for Neil Young here, most notably Joni Mitchell, who also decided to pull her entire catalog off the service. But you also see, and part of this drop in shares here is that there's now a movement for people to either cancel Spotify accounts or get their music off Spotify. It took a big name like Neil Young to get this movement to further move ahead. I mean, obviously, we had plenty of artists say their distaste for the service over the course of the last handful of years. And hopefully this is the real push moment where Spotify might actually have to make some changes, Will that happen? We'll see. But they're such a big name that I feel like maybe this can't make that much of a dent. But hey, here's hoping that maybe it does.
Well, it's for Spotify, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
You have probably 1.5 to 2 million people listening to Neil Young's music on a monthly basis, give or take.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan can get about 5 million listeners on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And that's the number we're talking about here.
Yeah, but like I'm saying though, is if enough high-profile artists make this decision, it might change their mind, because then the numbers start accumulating, right? If you have, say, 6 artists that are huge names that pull in millions of listeners every day, and all of a sudden that's pulling away, your Joe Rogan numbers are starting to look pretty similar. And
yes, so right now it's Neil Young. Yeah. So you say 6 artists.
Yeah.
Give me 5 that would make you pull from Spotify.
I already did. So
one you already
theoretically,
did.
if I was still a Spotify subscriber.
Yes. One of those big 5 that would make the pull.
I mean, we'll talk about it in a moment, but Taylor Swift could be a definite hinge here.
Yes.
I could totally see her doing this. She in the past has shown very consumer positive music fan positive reactions to streaming services screwing her over. Mm-hmm. So I would not be surprised if she jumps on this bandwagon here. I could see similar artists from similar eras like Paul McCartney making this move, which would be big. I think Adele could be a very important person in this play. She could make a play similar to the one she did about Spotify forcing their hand on shuffle. Mm-hmm. I think she could also, if she decides that she wants to pull her music, this could also make a big sea change with the service. So those are some names.
Now, those are artists who also own their catalog. Or what about? I guess this is off podcast here, but the corporations who own the music.
I don't see labels playing that game because the labels love Spotify. They want to maintain a good relationship with Spotify. It's the artists that are getting hurt here. The labels don't care. The labels want Spotify to exist and they want their artists to remain on it because it's not just a revenue model, it's a marketing model. They don't want to get rid of their relationship with Spotify because what all of a sudden Spotify, if Spotify continues to be the biggest player in the industry, it would be label suicide to stop working with them. Especially when you consider that streaming numbers are so important to Billboard charts. They can't make that risk. So yes, you're right. If labels pull, Spotify would have to do something, but are labels ever going to do that? No, they do not want to jeopardize that relationship. Artists have the power here, though. So it's the artist's decision. And especially big, powerful artists who don't need Spotify to still be famous. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of leverage.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. All that being said, following the news from Spotify, Apple came out with a statement that said, Neil Young, the home of Apple Music.
I also saw in a related note, Neil Young himself was trying to push the trial for Amazon Music on some people. Be like, hey, you can go to Amazon to listen to my music. Just saying, they got a free trial up. Try it out, which I thought was hilarious. I'm like, dude, you do not want to go into that rabbit hole about Amazon, man. Don't try those waters. Anyways.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of beef.
It's a whole lot of beef, but we're not done with beef.
Oh, no. Now here's your extra side of beef that you ordered.
Here's some meatloaf. Oh, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
On the side here.
Yeah. Here's your extra pork chop that you ordered.
Yeah, this is a long one. Bear with me because it ends on a pretty funny note.
Yes. So, Blur and Gorilla singer Damon Albarn.
Which, if you're British, you know who this is. If you're American, you know him as the Gorillaz guy.
Yes. The guy behind the Gorillaz, not the song.
Right.
The band.
The band.
Yes. Has claimed that Taylor Swift, quote, doesn't write her own songs.
There's a bit of asterisk there, but we'll get there.
After a LA Times interviewer noted that Swift was a talented songwriter. When the interviewer mentioned Swift also co-writes, Albarn responded, that doesn't count. I know what co-writing is. Co-writing is very different to writing. I'm not hating on co-writes. doesn't mean that the outcome can't be really great. Well, that whole quote was taken out of context.
Taylor didn't like it.
Taylor didn't like it. No. Taylor didn't like it. So she issued a response on Twitter calling Albarn's accusation completely false and so damaging. Quote, I was such a big fan of yours until I saw this. I write all my own songs. Your hot take is completely false and so damaging. You don't have to like my songs, but it's really fucked up to try and discredit my writing. Wow. Period.
Real quick though, I didn't have this in the story, but she apparently put like as a follow up to that tweet. P.S. I wrote this tweet myself, as if we didn't figure that out. Like you dropped an F-bomb in the tweet. Like, yes, Taylor, we know this is post Folklore Taylor coming out.
Yes, but it's also the dig on the co-writing,
right? Which is funny.
Yes, which is also funny. So within 12 hours of becoming persona non grata among Taylor Swift fans around the world, Albarn used his Los Angeles concert to further address his comments about the pop star. During the tail end of Albarn's Walt Disney Concert Hall show about 5 days ago, reportedly a 17-hour
17 song.
It could be
17 hours. No, 75 minutes.
It was reportedly a 17-song tour de force that lasted 75 minutes.
Yeah.
Albarn joked about Los Angeles Times pop music critic Mikael Wood,
who was the interviewer,
who did an interview about Taylor Swift, again suggesting that he was misrepresented in the article. A video uploaded to Twitter by one of the concert goers shows Albarn saying on stage that, quote, before he cast me into the social media abyss, Wood asked if he would play Song 2.
Yes.
You know, the iconic Blur soundtrack from 1997.
So if you don't know what Song 2 is, it's the one that goes, woohoo, woohoo. That's Song 2.
Yes. Always titled
You've
Song
heard it
2.
In every like sports thing you've ever seen.
Yep. It's also fun when making back when we used to burn CDs.
Right.
Song 2 would always be Song 2.
Yeah.
Because everyone didn't like Song 2. Yeah. Albarn says he initially responded with not a chance, but then rehearsed the song for concert. He then tells fans that, quote, you can judge for yourself whether it was worth it, adding, I think I'm just becoming old-fashioned. It's not exactly clear what he means by that. But the singer then dedicated the song to Mr. Woods.
So there's layers to this. So if anybody knows like anything about Song 2, if you're our age or older, it was a purposefully parodic song when it was released and nobody got the joke. Kind of similar to Green Day's Good Riddance. Yeah. It's a song that was made in the style of something that the artist actually didn't like. And the reason why they didn't like it was why it became a huge hit. Song 2 was supposed to be making fun of the grunge acts at the time. The kind of late 90s. He did Damon Albarn didn't like how rock music was starting to sound. So he was like, I'm going to write a song that sounds like that's those songs. It ended up being the biggest hit of Blur's career.
Yes.
And maybe he still has some beef about that. And so it's very funny that he would then be like, so this angry at this interviewer taking his quote out of context and enraging the internet, basically being like, you know what? I will play this song that you requested because you requested it and dedicate it to you. Kind of like bitterly in a way. It's great. So he ended up kind of making up for it. I don't think he really meant. I get what he was trying to say, which is like it's a different process, and so it's not necessarily the same. What's not in this story is that in the interview he specified what he like. Somebody he does admire is Billie Eilish because in his eyes, Billie Eilish has full songwriting ownership of her songs,
even though she co-writes with her brother.
Yes, which is a weird. Yeah,
if that documentary on
is any indication. But I get what he's trying to say. It's just that in an interview, you have to be prepared that your quotes are going to be taken out of context. And so, I also don't blame Taylor Swift for being like, hey, what the hell? Like, Also not in this story is that Aaron Dessner, who helped Taylor co-write a lot of songs on Folklore and Evermore, stood up in her defense and actually made a statement accusing Damon Albarn. It's like, no, I worked with Taylor. I know how she works. It's her work. Like, she's doing most of the heavy lifting here. Case in point, watch the Long Pond sessions on Disney Plus to get a kind of peek into what that process looked like.
I should watch that again.
Yeah, it was good. Huh?
It was really good.
It was good. Anyway, so there's a lot of layers and nuance to the story. So it's not as black and white as, oh, Damon said something mean about Taylor Swift. They both have their points. And really, the criticism should be directed at this interviewer who was like, maybe a little like, he fumbled the ball a little bit when describing what the story was here.
Oh, he knew exactly what he was doing.
I'm sure, yes. But also, you can't weaponize something like that because everybody knows that the Taylor Swift fans on the internet are deadly. They will go for the jugular.
Yes.
Like, they do not hold back. So, yeah, it's complicated. But ultimately, I think that this last bit kind of redeemed him in my eyes and be like, okay, he knows what's going on here. At least he's having some fun.
See, I think he was compounding two different ideals between songwriting of like someone who writes a song and like has one or two other writers on it,
right?
Compared to like famously Rihanna's songs,
right? Yes,
who have 20 different writers on it,
and not just Rihanna. Like, song by committee is often a punchline in pop music, where you have like 5 different authors. It's really funny when Grammys time comes around and you're looking at the endless credits on Song of the Year.
Well, that's why I keep bringing it up, because they did that for Rihanna. They had to read everybody's name on it.
And, of course, that also makes you think of Olivia Rodrigo's trials with Sour over the course of last year, where writers kept being added because of legal reasons. And so, like, I get where, yes, you're right. That's probably where he's coming from, is this kind of song by committee concept of pop music. But Taylor's right to point out that's not how she operates.
Yes.
It's kind of never how she operated. But still, yeah. So what I'm saying is, hold back, Taylor fans.
He had a good target. He just put it at the wrong target.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you can't say anything about Taylor. But hey, whatever. What you gonna do? They both had points. They tried to address them as they can. But it's the internet. What are you gonna do?
You can listen to us, and we can try and clean it up for you.
Hey, yeah.
Hey,
there you go.
There you go. All right, so let's get some music thoughts.
So that's the beef. Put the beef back in the freezer. We're not going to eat it anymore.
Oh, no, not till later.
Okay.
We have some leftover beef coming up later in the podcast.
Delicious.
Yes.
Anyway.
Oh, no, you don't like leftover beef?
You know what? In certain light, maybe. But if you got to maintain the leftovers. You got to put it in a really tight, sealed Tupperware.
See, what most people do is they take it out the beef and they just like reheat it. Like, you gotta add some salt.
Oh,
you add a little flavor seasoning to it.
We're getting air fryer. I hear air fryer does wonders to reheat your leftovers.
Hey,
yeah, there you go.
I'll start the next podcast. But
please send us ad reads. We'd love to do an ad read. Air fryer companies.
Yes, but if you like beef and you like country music, I got an album for you.
Country beef.
So Maddie and Tae.
They are 2 people.
The duo behind "Girl in a Country Song."
Yes.
Has come out with their second studio album.
That sounds right.
I think it's the second.
A relatively new act.
Yeah. I think it's their second official studio album. They had some EPs before that.
Okay.
Through the Madness, Volume 1.
Ooh, Volume 1.
Yes. So Maddie and Tae's basic shtick is taking country songs, and kind of responding to country songs from a female's perspective.
Sure.
It's hilarious, and it works. Hilarious in that something like this needs to be done, but also the fact that what they write about is right.
Sure.
It's very hard hitting stuff in the like country kind of folks, kind of a little bit pop-ish music. And that's what this album is, Through the Madness. It's a lot of those kind of songs where they're not necessarily taking pop shots at people, but they're taking their experiences and that kind of viewpoint and putting it into country music for not just easy listening, but also kind of alternative rock in a bit.
Okay, all right.
It's very hard hitting. I really liked it.
Nice.
You would like it.
They're probably taking some inspiration there from Miranda Lambert, who has also played around with that kind of both thematic area and also sound, like
especially off her last album, Wildcard.
Yes.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, this could be seen as like a sister album to that.
Cool.
I really liked it. But caveat is that it is country.
Well, yeah.
And it not quite like a breakup album like John Party's album was, but still in the same kind of genre of mad album.
Sure.
I mean, what explains the title?
Right.
The Madness.
Fruit of the Madness.
Yes. Volume 1, which does mean I expect a Volume 2 coming out later this year.
That would be great.
And then when that happens, maybe we'll put them back together and who knows? We'll see how it goes there.
But yeah, no, I will definitely check this out. I almost pulled the trigger on it. Did not have time yesterday. But yeah, sounds right up my alley. Yeah,
it's good songwriting.
It continues to be the Media Boat podcast opinion that women are doing the best in country music right now. So pay attention to them.
Yes.
Because it's very easy to focus on men because country radio does.
Yes, they do.
So keep that in mind, that a lot of women are doing great things in country music. You just need to listen to them. So yeah, cool. It's great news.
Yeah.
I did not listen to anything this week.
Okay.
New.
No, but you will be listening to that Mitski record.
I'll talk about Mitski next week. And yeah. Side note, if you want to see some of my favorite singles of the week, you can go to my Twitter. I'm at Quackerdrill, QUACKERDRILL, where I post a weekly Friday roundup of songs and albums that I like. They're usually some stuff that's not super mainstream enough for the podcast. So if you want to kind of have a little deeper dive into music, you can check that out.
And if you want an explanation for that Twitter handle, you can email us at mediabellpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
And we will read your comments live on air, like we did last episode.
It's true.
All right. Enough of the plugs. Let's keep rolling right in here to video games. And we have 2 releases this upcoming week.
Yeah.
Life is Strange, Remastered Collection for PS4, Xbox One, and the PC.
Don't let those platforms deceive you. You can also play these on PS5 and Xbox Series X as well. This is specifically the Remastered Collection for Life is Strange 1 Before the Storm. This does not include Life is Strange 2. This is exclusively the first
or True Colors.
Or True Colors. This is just, because of course they wouldn't be remastering that.
Yes.
But yeah, this is specifically remastered editions of the first game and Before the Storm. So if you want to catch up on the original Life is Strange story, if you haven't played those games, or if you haven't played those games in 7 years since they came out, can you believe that? It was 7 years ago.
7 years ago?
7 years ago. Yeah, so this is a nice redone way of revisiting that content. I already own this because if you bought the deluxe edition of True Colors, this was included in that.
Okay.
So I may check this out before next week on PS5. So we'll see.
And your big release of the week, Dying Light 2, Stay Human.
So this is on everything except for Switch. The Switch version has been delayed to March.
Yes. Which means come March, we'll have Dying Light 2 Stay Human again, but that time for the Switch.
I should also mention that the Life is Strange remastered stuff is also coming to Switch later.
Yep. End of
February, I think.
Cloud version?
Actually, don't think so this time. I think that unlike True Colors, this is just the normal version.
That's why I asked.
They can run it because it's a 360 game. That's why.
Anyways, let's get into some video game news, and we start with more beef, or rather, Fallout beef.
Ooh,
from last week's big Microsoft Activision Blizzard $70 billion acquisition.
Yes.
Announcement.
Yeah, this is just some cleanup about the multi-platform questions some people had about Call of Duty.
Yes. So Activision Blizzard is reportedly committed to releasing at least the next 3 Call of Duty games for PlayStation consoles. That's according to Bloomberg, with sources familiar with the publisher's plans following the $69 billion acquisition by Microsoft.
Finally, somebody had the bravery to call it a $69 billion acquisition instead of 70 or 68.7.
Yes.
69.
Nice.
Anyway.
So prior to the announcement of Microsoft's takeover plans, Activision had already agreed to make another 3 Call of Duty games available on both PlayStation and Xbox consoles. Mm-hmm. These are said to be the Modern Warfare 2 from Infinity Ward later this year, the new game from Black Ops developer Treyarch next year, and Warzone 2, which is also said to be planned release next year, 2023.
So those are roughly 3 games. If you know, of course, Warzone is a free-to-play thing, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's a Call of Duty title proper, but it means for at least the next couple of years, the exclusivity will not be in effect. Of course, what happens to Call of Duty after that is anyone's guess, because this, of course, moves the timeline when this deal will be finalized. But at that point, Microsoft will be calling the shots, and they will determine what the future of Call of Duty looks like. A lot of signs are pointing to them considering de-annualizing the franchise, giving these teams a little bit more room to make maybe a better Call of Duty experience.
What?
Than putting 5 different teams on it every year.
What?
I know. It could be wild. We could
but
be
the
seeing
money.
A new vision of what Call of Duty could be under the Microsoft leadership. Of course, that's all speculation. We don't know for sure what Microsoft wants to do for the future of Call of Duty. But at least until 2023, we know roughly what the Call of Duty world is going to look like, and those games will still be on PlayStation.
But the money they could be losing year over year.
We'll see.
The poor money.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's a business. Money.
One real quick thing, it's not really news, but I thought it was hilarious. There was a headline that I saw that apparently certain retailers in certain areas have now started putting warnings on PlayStation consoles, basically a sign in their store that says, heads up before you buy a PlayStation, Microsoft just bought Activision, which I think is hilarious that they think that people care or know what that means if they're buying a PlayStation in a brick and mortar store.
Yes.
Like, no, that person does not exist. The person who sees that and gets, I need to buy an Xbox then. That person you made up. That person doesn't exist. That sign will be gibberish to them.
That person is buying it for their 10-year-old son or daughter.
They don't know what an Activision is. They don't know what a Call of Duty is, probably. Or maybe they do, and they don't know who makes it.
Or maybe they think, my kid's not going to play that game anyways for the next 5 years.
He's 10.
Yeah. That doesn't affect me.
I just thought that was a weird like aftermath thing for this thing. So that's what the newest news we know. And we'll of course keep y'all updated if there's anything that trickles out after this. So we'll see.
Yep, we'll see. So the next 3 Call of Duty named games.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in the franchise series moving forward, but just named Call of Duty, whatever.
At least
until next year.
And then who knows after
that. Because as reported last week, the deal is expected to close sometime in June of the next year.
Yeah, 2023.
Yeah. It's a long legal process to merge these two things.
Turns out.
Well, not merging, but just straight out buying them. But
we'll see.
Yep. We may even see fallout from the Activision Blizzard lawsuits before they actually get purchased, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. However, something that hasn't been bought out yet, I say yet, EA.
Yeah.
So, Electronic Arts, EA, has announced an extension of its partnership for good or for bad with Lucasfilm Games, which will see developer Respawn work on 3 new Star Wars projects.
3. Can you believe that?
Not 1, not 2,
right?
But 3.
3.
In the announcement this past Tuesday, the EA officially announced a sequel to Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order, along with 2 new projects in development at new teams within Respawn's hierarchy. Firstly, a new Star Wars first-person shooter game is being held by former LucasArts veteran and Medal of Honor co-creator Pete Hirschman, who has previously worked on the original Battlefront games, The Force Unleashed, and others.
Important to note here, there was a recent story about Respawn making another kinetic shooter project. That is separate from this. A lot of people were conflating the stories when this first got announced, thinking, that thing they were talking about last week, that must be the Star Wars game. Well, no. Respawn has now made it clear that those still are 2 separate products. So that thing might still be the rumored Titanfall 3 that a lot of people think they're secretly working on. That remains separate from this new Star Wars shooter.
Yes. Meanwhile, Respawn's third Star Wars project is a strategy game developed through a production collaboration with BitReactor, which is the studio formed by veterans of XCOM and Civilization Studios, Firaxis Games. Respawn will produce the new Star Wars strategy game, while BitReactor leads on the development of the title.
So yeah, that's just to say that they're not developing it as much. They're just producing it. But BitReactor is kind of under their leadership. So yeah, a shooter and a strategy game, and also a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, which a lot of people did like.
Yep.
So I think that there's promise for all three of those. Respawn's a great developer. A lot of people love Apex Legends, and Titanfall 2 is great. So I trust them. And hey, most notably, what's not here, and a lot of people point this out, Battlefront 3.
Yes.
It seems like they're abandoning the Battlefront franchise after the fracas that was Battlefield 2 or Battlefront 2. So I don't blame them.
No. You know what I want to see?
Okay, what?
A Mando game.
You know what? I mean, when you hear about a first-person shooter in the Star Wars universe, that does link together. You do have a character who is like exploring shit and shooting stuff. So maybe.
You do have a good kind of God of War style parent-child relationship there.
I want to see the co-op game where player 2 controls Baby Yoda.
It's Grogu.
Whatever.
You know it.
Who cares?
I care.
Anyways.
Where you send Grogu on little missions, like, here, squeeze into this little space.
Like the Clank missions in Ratchet and Clank.
Exactly. It works.
It works.
EA, make that game.
We just pitched a game. There you go. Just do that.
Just do that.
Anyways.
There you go. That'll sell a lot of games.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways.
So we didn't mention new releases because we talked about it last week.
Right.
Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
Came out this past Friday.
Yes.
It's in the mail.
Yeah, we haven't played it yet. We will talk about it next week. We'll get our copies probably today. So
most likely today, yes. So which means we'll have our full thoughts on it. If not next week,
which is good because I think the one problem with doing these shows on Friday is that for video games that need a lot of time to gestate, we have one day basically to talk about them. So
yeah, we also have music that has one day to gestate.
Yeah, but that's different. I can understand an album in one day. I cannot understand a video game in one day. So yeah, maybe expect a week for us to really talk about new video game releases in proper fashion.
Yes.
But I did manage to play a couple video games this week that did come out last week.
What were you playing besides Wordle?
Besides Wordle, I jumped into a couple of Game Pass games that launched on the service last week. First up, hey, do you remember the Xbox 360 era game Guacamelee?
Yes, because that was also a PlayStation game.
Yes, it was. It was on all platforms. So Drinkbox Games, the developer of Guacamelee, their new game is Nobody Saves the World. And it is a top-down Zelda-like that is also kind of a grinding game that is based on the premise of you name a kind of formless hero, the titular Nobody, is kind of plopped into a fantasy world and must, do some fantasy stuff to basically conquer dungeons and get further in this fantasy world to discover a missing wizard or something like that. The plot's not really important.
Do fantasy, be fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. The plot's not important because what matters here is the gameplay. And this Nobody has a power to transform into non-nobodies, different basically classes of characters that have their own powers. Their powers can be expanded by grinding through the dungeons, by killing enemies, and basically doing achievement-style quests. Say, kill 10 enemies using this power. Use this power for
that sounds Ben
20 minutes. And kind of similar, but video games. So imagine like the more you do a thing with a character, the better that character is going to be. You get points to put into those powers to make them better. And there's lots of options. And these range across the gamut of being a little rat that can chew through enemies and go through small holes, or a knight in shining armor that is a Zelda-like sword pattern, or being an archer that can do long-distance archery attacks, or being a mermaid that can shoot little bubbles of water towards enemies, or being a slug that has the power to go really quickly across spaces by making a slime trail in front of it. It also introduces this like extra level of like rock, paper, scissors typing kind of advantage where certain enemies have tight armor that you need to, like, say, use a poison attack first before it becomes vulnerable to other enemies, which means that you need to be swapping forms on the fly sometimes to get the past those defenses. The dungeons are not super puzzle heavy; they're more combat. So, for example, the game's version of the puzzle will be, oh, you come across a wall that's like kill 30 enemies before you can go past this wall, and then you kind of have to do that. So on paper, it sounds like this would be kind of annoying because it seems like with the entire concept is based on grinding out enemies. You might be like, this sounds kind of annoying. But what they do to improve that is really dig into the like a gamer's need for numbers to go up. Yeah. Everything is represented in a basically a bar that's constantly growing, right?
Yes.
So if you say change to the slug and you're like, oh, the slug only needs like 3 more enemies to kill with this bubble attack for it to move on to the next level, I could do that. Imagine that, but constantly a constant treadmill of that. Yes. So it turns a game based on grinding into something that kind of elicits that gorilla brain that everybody has about trying to get better. It's like...
so don't let me play this game?
Pretty much. You would destroy you because you'd be constantly on the edge of like, oh, I need to upgrade this guy. Oh, the knight is almost upgraded. Oh, but I also have the mermaid power is almost here. It's literally trying to get you to do that.
It sounds a bit like Ratchet & Clank where you're trying to upgrade your guns every time.
Similar to that. It also reminds me of the feeling of back in the day playing Call of Duty 4 and over and over again and trying to get that M16 to the next level because you only need 3 more headshots.
Yep.
It's that same kind of...
And when you do, you unlock the new scope and that's going to help you better.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly that. The game knows what it's doing. And if that sounds appealing to you, if you like when the numbers go up and you don't mind a little bit repetitive gameplay, Nobody Saves the World is a fun time.
It's not repetitive if it's fun.
Right.
Is it fun to grind?
It's pretty fun.
Okay.
I'm having a good time with it so far. I did have one little hiccup with it. I finally got to like the first like big castle after I grinded for a little bit to get the 15 stars to open it. Once I was in there, I died, and I did not realize that you get sent outside of the dungeon when you die, which means that I had to redo all of what I did, and so I turned the game off after that. I was
Wait, is there no save?
So there's no mid-dungeon save until you get to the boss. So it's Zelda-like in that manner.
Does that make it a roguelike then?
Kind of, but not really, because it's more like a Zelda dungeon. Because classic Zelda, a lot of the handhelds, specifically like Minish Cap comes to mind, would do a thing where once you got to a certain point in the dungeon, right before a mini-boss or a boss, it would have basically a respawn or a checkpoint thing that could send you back to the beginning of the dungeon, say, if you need to like pick up something you missed. Or after you beat the boss, you can teleport right back to the exit, essentially. This game does that.
Okay.
So it will save your progress once you get to the boss. So if you die at a boss, it doesn't send you outside of the dungeon. It just sends you to outside of the boss. But if you die before that, you lose that dungeon progress and you have to start over. So that was the one moment where I was like, I don't really feel like doing all of that again. It also means because you're juggling between those different forms constantly, it does give you kind of like a little bit like, but I like the archer better. I wish I could just play the archer the whole time instead of having to switch back to the rat because he's the only one that has the poison power.
Right.
So those are 2 little nitpicks that maybe get in the way of you enjoying this. But I think that if you're somebody who is like really into those like leveling up things in video games, and if that constant treadmill sounds appealing to you, you will have a blast with Nobody Saves the World. So it's free on Game Pass if you already have Game Pass. If not, I believe that it is about $20 on other platforms. Okay. So check it out. I think it's a good time.
I might. No. I said let's check it out, but then I have Pokemon coming.
Yeah, you might have. Yeah, it's not something that, because you will want to spend a lot of time with this.
Yes.
So maybe wait till after Pokemon to give it a shot.
Yep.
But
I might need it on the Switch too, so I can play it while doing other stuff.
It might be on. I think it's on the Switch, so I think it would be a really good Switch game.
Yep.
So Also, in some things I spent a little bit of time, not nearly as much time as Nobody Saves the World. I played a little bit. I mean, it's not on Switch.
No, it's on Xbox only.
I guess it's Xbox for now. Don't be surprised if like a year or so it comes to other, or maybe 6 months even, comes to other platforms.
Yep.
But the other game I played on Game Pass this week, right, was a long-coming sequel to a game that many people might not know about. Have you ever played Windjammers?
I have heard of the name long ago.
Yes. So Windjammers was an arcade classic back in the day. Basically a frisbee one-on-one tennis equivalent or volleyball equivalent. Remember Disc Jam?
Yeah, I remember that.
This predates Disc Jam, but Disc Jam was loosely based on the concepts introduced in Windjammers. Basically, one-on-one, tossing a disc back and forth over a net, trying to get it past the other player. Imagine a more humanized Pong, essentially, is what Windjammers is. It spices up a little bit, just like Disc Jam later did, by adding like special powers that you have. You have a special that you can do. Every character has a different special once a charge meter has been charged. There's different like twiddles of the sticks that you can do to like send curved discs. Not in the same way as Disc Jam. Disc Jam made it a little bit more intuitive.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more classic arcade, where you really have to slam like the quarter circle fighting game style to really get that curve to happen. Yeah. So finally, after years of that being a tournament classic, especially in France, where I understand that the Disc Jammers scene, or with that, combine the two, Windjammers scene is very popular, and it's very popular for tournament play in France. Well, a French studio decided to finally make a sequel and called it Windjammers 2, and it is extremely faithful to the original. Updated visuals, of course. Everything's in HD and looks great. But it's Windjammers, and it doesn't have any any qualms about that. I was like, when I went into it, I was like, I feel like I need to watch a tutorial to really know what's happening here. Well, their tutorial was not even a video. It was a series of slides essentially saying, this button does this button does this, with like a little like picture of what it does. And I was like, this is all you're giving me? So let me warn you, if you are an absolute beginner, this game does not play nice with beginners. I lost my first game immediately in the arcade mode. The first game, because I was like kind of struggling with the moves. So if you played a lot of Windjammers 1, you have an advantage here, because that means you're going in with already experience playing a game like this. But if you haven't, it is not friendly. So I've heard from a lot of people who also have played a lot of the online that the servers aren't great right now, especially for the first week. There were some jitters about people finding matches. It's also on Game Pass and not available in the same form on PlayStation. So it might be harder to find a PlayStation competitor online because it's not readily available like it is to Xbox people. So that might also be like a little wrinkle keeping you from enjoying Windjammers 2. But if you do like Windjammers, and if you wanted a sequel for years, this is finally it. It gives you everything you want. The only real big change I think they made is that instead of having to charge shots for your special, the special automatically accumulates. So within like 3 sets, you'll have that special charged up and ready to go. Yeah. So in that way, it's a little friendlier. But otherwise, it is not beginner friendly. And so just be aware that there's a learning curve here. But under the surface,
you mean a throwing curve?
Yes, exactly. But under that surface, though, it is there's a lot of fun to be had, and it's still a great multiplayer game. So yeah,
okay. Yeah.
I think ultimately I still prefer Disc Jam.
Yes,
because it's a little more intuitive, and I also like the behind the back perspective a little bit better than the top down perspective that the Windjammers series does. But mileage may vary on that, so it depends on what you're used to.
All right.
But it's hey, Game Pass. Check it out if you want to give it a try.
Yeah. Lastly, real quick news.
Yes.
If you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, the games for February have been announced. They are EA's Sports UFC 4, Planet Coaster, Console Edition, and Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, a Wonderlands one-shot adventure.
Right. So a couple notes about this. The Planet Coaster is the PS5 game. So I don't know if that PS gives you the PS4 version.
No, it does not.
Also, it might just be PS5. The other two are PS4. A note about the Assault on Dragon Keep that was originally released as DLC for Borderlands 2.
Yes.
So this was this, but if you buy this is a standalone game that does not require Borderlands 2 to be installed. So if you missed it the first time, this is a way to catch up on the concept that underlies Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is coming out in a couple months.
Yes. But if you're a subscriber about 4 months ago when they gave you Borderlands, the Handsome Collection,
you already have
it came with the Assault on Dragon's Keep DLC.
So just note that if you already own that, this is the same thing.
Yes. And also, if you're a fan of the Roller Coaster Tycoon series, that's what Planet Coaster is.
Yes.
It's they just couldn't call it Roller Coaster Tycoon due to legal reasons because of different developers and who owns the IP. So they did the exact same game, but renamed it Planet Coaster.
Yeah, my old roommate played a lot of this on the Xbox, and seemed to have a good time with it. A lot of people who are into that kind of have nostalgia for Roller Coaster Tycoon really like Planet Coaster. So
you should get Mark to play it.
It would be too much for him. He'd be like, "No, this is too new." He'd be like, "I don't like that it's 3D."
I'll get the doctor to play it. She likes.
Yeah,
she likes the Roller Coaster Tycoon stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Anything else in video games then?
I think that does it.
I don't think I have anything else. So let's move on to television.
Yeah, let's take it into TV, and we always start television with the Sports Corner, which is always behind us and on my hat. Of course, the big sports news is all about the NFL. We are caterwauling straight to the Super Bowl with a couple more games before we know who competes in it.
Yes, in the big game.
Yes, in the big game. Sorry, yes, we can't. Legally. No, we can say Super Bowl. We're not being paid for this. In fact, we're paying to do this. It's the opposite of that.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes, no profit.
So there were a handful of headlines this week in the world of football.
Yes.
A couple of moving parts here. Ben Roethlisberger, Big Ben himself, has finally officially retired from his career with the Steelers. So.
Yep. Expect number 7 to be retired for the Steelers.
I imagine.
In about 2 years when they actually put his name up in the Hall of Fame, or not the Hall of Fame, but like the Ring of Honor. And then 5 years post-retirement, he'll definitely be first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, for sure. He's played a lot of classic games in that
Super Bowl two Super Bowl championships, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, long time coming. And in the wake of Aaron Rodgers, at least he's like also kind of an asshole, but at least he's not maybe as big. I don't know. Actually, that's kind of an asshole fight right there. I don't know who's the bigger asshole.
Well, depends on who you ask. Are you asking Antonio Brown? Or are you asking his motorcycle?
Oh boy. Anyways, also in retirement news this week in the NFL, Sean Payton has retired from the Saints.
Yes. Before everyone starts heaping praise on Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Leaving, after Drew Brees left and staying for the 1 year. Please do remember that Sean Payton is also the one who instigated Bountygate during the 07-08 seasons, where he and his staff paid players to injure other players.
So basically, if you learn anything from this podcast this week, is the NFL is full of assholes.
That being said, the NFL celebrates these assholes.
And speaking of celebrating assholes,
no one.
Sorry, I had to. It was the segue was right there.
I know.
The good news is that Tom Brady is not in the Super Bowl this year because the Buccaneers were eliminated. The two teams that remain in the playoffs are the Rams and the 49ers.
In an NFC West championship showdown.
Yeah, California
for the
battle.
NFC championship title.
Yep, California battle.
Yep.
And the Chiefs and the Bengals out of nowhere here. So who will win? We'll go to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
We'll see.
That game is significant because this is the 4th time the Chiefs have hosted the AFC Championship. No other team has done that in 4 straight years. Also, no person in the entirety of the world has ever texted the Bengals lost a playoff game.
And this might happen.
No, it won't. Because Joe Burrow.
It could.
No, it won't. Because also, conversely, Joe Burrow has not lost a playoff game that he has been in.
All right.
So similar to last week where we said that someone finally texted that Bengals won a playoff game.
Yeah.
It also means that no one has ever texted that they have lost a playoff game.
So this, what's your call here? I'm going to say non-biased because I know you're a huge Rams fan here. What do you think your Super Bowl picture looks like this year?
Rams, Bengals.
Okay. You think that biased side that they can take it to the 49ers.
So the Rams already lost twice to the 49ers this year.
Yes. So you think that
they
can't possibly lose again?
No, you can't possibly lose again. That'd just be unfathomably stupid if you did.
But what if the world is unfathomably stupid? And we have a lot of proof that it might be.
Yes. So here's the one way they will win.
Okay.
Jimmy G gets hurt. Trey Lance comes in and wins the game because no one knows how to guard Trey Lance. Because Trey Lance has played a total of one full game before getting injured.
Oof. Well, I suppose we will see.
And then you have, I guess we should at least mention the epic game that we've shown forever in the Chiefs-Bills playoff game. If you did not see it, and I know you didn't.
No.
3 different scoring changes within the last 90 seconds of the game, minute and a half of the game.
Damn.
The Chiefs scored with 13 seconds left on the clock to send it into overtime. It also, I'm going to send the game to overtime, and the Chiefs won the coin toss and sent it to overtime, and they won there. And then immediately following that, calls for changing the overtime rules in football were sent everywhere.
Yeah, that was kind of the other big story this week is people going back and forth about whether that change needs to happen going forward.
I say no.
The other kind of half of that was people saying how good those games were. A lot of people were praising just how fun they were to watch. So you got out of the yin and yang of football conversation this week.
So I can see the rule being changed, but not to the current rule that it is, where we stop play, it's a coin toss. If they're going to change it, they should just basically add a 10-minute quarter. Okay. And whatever the scores at the end of those 10 minutes is the game.
What if it's a tie? So it becomes a tie?
No, then you add then it's a tie in overtime or in the regular season. Right. But if it's playoff, you have to continue playing 10 minutes.
So you're basically saying baseball rules, where you could have a game go to several overtimes.
Yeah.
Until there's not a tie.
Yes, but in doing that, you're not... See, that's why they don't want to do that, because you don't want that.
Because it's also not baseball. The thing is that football is constant action. You can't tax the players.
Okay, I will say this, though, that people bring up the baseball rules constantly, if someone hits a home run in the top of the first or the top of the 10th, that's it. They just call the game. I'm like, okay, sure, they could do that, but tell me how the defense could score a point. Yeah. Tell me how players on defense playing baseball can score a point to win in the top of the first.
It's a different,
top of the ninth.
Yeah, it's just a fundamental difference between the two.
You can't do that.
Defense
that's not a thing.
Has the ability to come back. They have the ability to try to strip the ball, to try to make an interception. There's some things the defense can do in football that can prompt that.
Right, and that's the whole point of the coin toss. It's okay. We want the ball. We say we can score on you, and it's actually why they changed the rule the first time. Yeah. Originally, it was just next score wins.
Yeah.
But what people would do is they'd either get down to the 20 and then kick it on first down because all they need is a field goal to win, or they'd stall out about the 30 or 40 and kick a 40-yard field goal to win.
Right.
Basically, this changed because Peyton Manning kept getting screwed over in overtime.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, if you kick a field goal, because that's what they were doing against them, that's all they needed to win. Mm-hmm. If you kick a field goal, the other team now gets a chance. But if you score a touchdown, that's it, game over. Because it's a lot harder to score a touchdown.
Yeah, so you're right. No, the key about the debate really is whether how much you believe the defense in football is about preventing the offense or about trying to make an offensive play. Because defense has the power to do that.
Yes.
So really, that's, I think, where the tipping point for a lot of people is. A lot of people are like, no, that's really rare and shouldn't be the focus of the defense. Or the other people who are like, no, they should be actively trying to get that ball.
Yeah, I mean, if you solely focus it on the offensive players,
Right.
you're discounting half the team,
Yes.
actually over half the team,
Right.
because you're discounting both the defensive players, but also the special teams players as well.
Yeah.
And only focusing on those 11 to 20 guys assigned specifically for offense.
Right. Well, we could talk about football rules all day, but
Okay, this is me stepping off that soapbox.
Yes, thank you.
Because I've seen this debate over
No, you're right.
on social media, and I'm like, no, you guys are wrong.
Yeah.
You're focusing on the wrong things.
I tend to agree with you, and I saw the exact same take. Somebody I follow on Twitter, their reaction was like, I actually don't think they should change it because people are ignoring defense.
Yes.
Like, people just pretend that it's every other sport and don't think about it. Yeah.
Right, and then people care like about the baseball thing. I'm like, yeah, but baseball doesn't score on defense.
The same.
It's not the same thing. You can't do that.
For many reasons.
Yes.
The reason you said, and also because it's a different animal. Like, a lot of baseball standing around. You can't just stand around in football. I mean, you could. It just would be a bad idea.
Yes.
Anyways.
Also, fun fact, if you ever asked this trivia question, baseball is the only sport where the defense controls the ball.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah.
Weird but true.
Weird but true.
Anyways, speaking of weird but true, no, I actually don't have a segue for that, but
well, this is weird but true. We are in the final days of the Washington football team.
Yeah, maybe. Because the Washington football team's new name is going to be supposedly revealed on Wednesday the 2nd.
And yes, Washington football team is still up for consideration.
Yeah, so we could just live with that, which I think would be hilarious. Or there could be an actual name here. Do you know of any scuttlebutt about any of the names that they're trying to settle on?
I believe both Red Wolves and Generals were the top two. Huh? Red
Wolves?
Yeah, the Red Wolves.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And Generals were the other two top names to that I saw.
Generals would be funny because there's already been teams called the Washington Generals.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's also why.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm saying like with the Cleveland Guardians.
Right. Yeah.
There's specific meanings behind it.
Yeah. I don't like either of them, to be honest.
No.
But definitely not Red Wolves. Ew. It just makes me think of Red Wall.
Red Wolves.
Yeah, gross. And also, I don't want them to have red anywhere in their name because it does evoke that old name that I'd rather not think about.
Right.
I don't know. In my opinion, just keep the Washington football team forever. It's just funny. It's just funny.
No, I mean,
it's just funny.
You have to call them the New York Football Giants.
Yeah, right. Still funny every time they do it.
Yep.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yep.
Moving out of football, your number 6 Rafael Nadal and your number 2 Dmitry Medvedev are facing off for the AO men's singles final.
Yep, the Australian Open is coming to an end here.
Yes.
Number 6 versus number 2 ranked seeds. Yeah. Going at it.
Meanwhile, in the women's singles championship in the Australia Open, number 1 Ashley Barty has beaten number 27 Danielle Collins to win.
Yep, for the women's singles championship.
Yes.
And
first Australian player to win in 44 years.
Yep, that is the fun fact of the day.
So Australians don't typically win the Australian Open, unfortunately. So that's a good exception.
Yes, that is also 44 years on both either men's and women's side.
Well, there you go. And then before we move into the big sports story this week, just a real quick reminder that the Winter Olympics opening ceremony will take place on Friday, the 4th of February. So if you're looking forward to some Olympic action, that is when it all starts.
Yep. So we'll talk about the opening ceremonies next week, as well as all the kind of fallout from what's going on with the Olympic Games next week.
But in the meantime, baseball had its big news this week in the Hall of Fame decisions. David Ortiz.
Big Poppy.
Mofongo. Him of the big lunch. Finally. I got to watch a lot of those again. Those are always funny. Shout out to Keenan. The only player this year selected for the Hall of Fame.
Yep, by the Baseball Writers Association of America.
He joins the 6 men voted in by the Golden Days and early baseball era committees back in December, who were Jim Catt and Tony Oliva, and the late Bud Fowler, Gil Hodges, Minnie Minoso, and Buck O'Neill. Meanwhile, those names that were on watch as their last year of eligibility, including Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling, all failed to make the Hall of Fame in their final year. So if you were really hoping that they would have a chance, that chance is over.
Yep. Conversely, though, if you were on the ballot and you received under 5% of the vote, you also didn't make it.
And those names include Tim Lincecum?
Yeah, Tim Lincecum.
Ryan Howard, Jonathan Papelbon, Prince Fielder, and Carl Crawford, who all will be dropped.
Yep, they'll be dropped from future ballots.
So of course, this continues the debate about whether the reasoning for players like Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling should have been in the Hall of Fame. Media Vote podcast opinion classically has been yes.
So with this this final, I guess, ballot, it means that the hits leader in the MLB, Pete Rose, not in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
The home runs leader,
not in the Hall of Fame.
Also not in the home runs Hall of Fame.
In
Barry Bonds. And the Cy Young leader, from Curt Schilling,
none of them
not in the Hall of Fame.
None of them.
So that begs the question then:
what is the Baseball Hall of Fame?
No. If they're not in the Hall of Fame, why do the records still stand?
I mean, those are two different things. I don't agree with you there because I feel like
if you're going to discount them from the game and say their achievements don't count, why do their records?
Because the records are the records. They exist no matter what. The records are separate from the Hall of Fame, and the records are to be beaten. And so the goal is, beat those records and be a better player than them. Yes. The Hall of Fame is separate. The Hall of Fame is viewed as this.
But if you're saying that those players cheated and skirted the rules of the game,
then why are the
records still matter?
I don't know. Just because the thing happened and it happened. I think what you're arguing here is more about why isn't the Hall of Fame also recognizing that these things happen?
Oh, they should.
That's what I'm saying. Is that it shouldn't be both don't matter. It should be they both should matter. And that's, I think, the argument that really matters here is that it's stupid, in our opinion, that the Hall of Fame did not admit that, yes, even though there was stuff going on under the hood there, that happened. And it still happened. Also, it's kind of like what we keep bringing up, which is the Time Magazine kind of argument, which is the Man of the Year is not necessarily the Man of the Year because he was great. It's the Man of the Year. Back in the day.
Yes.
The question, it should be about, did they make an impact? Yes, no, is what the answer is.
It wasn't, was the impact good? It wasn't who was the most important. It was the biggest impact of the year.
Who mattered? And these people mattered, regardless of whether they followed the rules or not. Mm-hmm. Should they have? Of course not. But that's neither here nor there. It should be the history of the sport. And the history does get dark sometimes and should still represent that dark side.
That's actually what's listed in the plaque as you enter the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah. The second line is literally that this is a museum dedicated to the history of baseball, both good and bad.
That's
if you're ignoring the bad part here of the steroid era, then you're not living up to the name on the plaque of this entrance.
But apparently, since this is the last time we'll have this conversation, maybe, they made a choice here to make the Hall of Fame pure. And to do that is what, I guess, their final decision, and there's no changing it.
But here's the thing, though, that this is only the Baseball Writers Association of America Hall of Fame. Yes. And as we literally just mentioned, there are committees, the Golden Days and the early baseball era committees, who can dedicate or can nominate players who are no longer eligible on the Hall of Fame ballot to be elected into the Hall of Fame.
So it's possible, but very unlikely.
Oh, I say in about 10 years from now. Okay, mark my words. By 2030.
By 2030, okay.
Yes, we will still be doing this podcast.
Somehow.
By 2030, there will be...
I will be 40 years old.
Don't think about it that much. But think about this. That by the time 2030 comes around, we'll have a new commissioner. We'll also have new baseball committees.
Right.
And within sometime in those committees, you will see Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Curt Schilling, and Pete Rose. Maybe Roger Clemens. I don't know.
Roger Clemens.
In the inaugural, whatever you want to call that era.
Yeah. They call it officially the steroid era.
Yeah, but Pete Rose wasn't a part of it. But I figured he should also be in it. So.
Grandfathered in.
Yeah, grandfather did. As the inaugural class
Sure.
of whatever that you want to
Whatever they
call
call that.
the black mark era.
So you're
or
saying,
whatever.
yeah. So you're saying that they might have to just force it by introducing an alternate title,
Yes.
which they could do now.
I mean, you could always do it.
Yeah.
You call it the black mark committee, and then people players who had achievements on the field, but also had black marks off the field.
Yeah.
That affected on the field performance or whatever.
So we'll see, but it doesn't look likely in the next decade.
Oh, I'm saying within the next decade.
So that's all speculation on our part.
Yes.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
But we need to move on.
Lastly, in MLB news,
yes.
MLB, the show, will have a new cover athlete.
So so before next week's show, we will know who the cover athlete of the show 22 will be. All signs point to Shohei Ohtani. How could it not be?
So it will become the Shohei 2023?
Yes, the Shohei 2022. No, 22. They always do the year of because of how baseball season works.
Yes, because
unlike other sports, baseball season happens in one calendar year.
Yes.
So
the
it will
Shohei
be
2022?
Yeah, the Shohei 2022. Look forward to it on Monday. Anyways, let's move on into other television stories. We have a couple of television stories for you here. First up, a little Jeopardy update. When we last left our Jeopardy, the big news was Amy Schneider, who was on fire as a champion on Jeopardy. So on fire, in fact, she continued to win 40 straight games, which passed James Holzhauer's and Modio's records to become the second most winningest games in the regular season of Jeopardy.
Yep. They both stalled out at 30. Well, not say stalled out, but they both won 33 and 38 respectively.
So Amy Schneider passed both of them. Only second, of course, to all-time record and current host Ken Jennings with his 74 wins back in 2004. Her total winnings before she unfortunately lost on that 41st night were $1,382,800. And she will return, of course, for the Tournament of Champions when it happens this fall. She ultimately lost to a multimedia librarian on a final Jeopardy answer, the answer of which was Bangladesh.
I guess the question was Bangladesh?
Yeah, the question was what is Bangladesh? But yes, so Amy Schneider went down, but not. But don't worry, that librarian dude lost the next night. Spoiler alert.
As I've heard,
as what happens all the time. That's traditionally what happens. I believe the lady who beat Ken also lost the next night. So good run for Amy Schneider. She now has the record of the most winningest woman in Jeopardy history as well.
In game show history as
also, probably important to note, she also makes the best playing transgender competitor on Jeopardy as well. Also may have changed the way that people talk about the game forever because Ken Jennings mentioned on Twitter that the game will now have a more sports data approach to how they report on it. He said that one of the things he wanted to do as a producer was have the conversation switch from Jeopardy being entertainment to being a competition. And so now they'll be more open with data, like number of questions answered in a game.
I've seen this on Facebook after the West Coast shows.
Yeah.
That they'll post the data of how the players got right, how they got wrong, what's their accuracy and buzzing. He
wants the conversation to change about Jeopardy from being a fun watch to being about
from trivia to competition.
Like basically write it as if it's a sport, which I think is cool. And I think that Amy Schneider is one of the reasons why that happened, is because the way she played was very much like not like anything we'd seen before. Very quick, very like casual almost in the way that she approached it. Very different from what we've seen a lot of Jeopardy champions do, and it worked.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to seeing it as the new world of Jeopardy that we're entering, going into this rest of this year, changes in her wake. So,
also, still no word on permanent host, but
no.
Ken Jennings pretty much killing it now.
I mean, he's doing such a good job. I can't imagine they don't eventually get the job to him. I can't imagine. It'll be weird going back to Mayim Bialik after this.
Well, she'll be doing the celebrity,
right,
and the primetime tournaments.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Anyways,
let's move on to our second story, which takes us from Jeopardy to another intellectual channel, PBS.
So this is a show that neither of us have watched in probably 20 years.
Or at all. Like really, as a kid, I mean.
Oh, you missed this as a kid?
I occasionally watch the theme song because it's a banger. But I did not watch the show proper. But a friend of the show, Christy, is a big fan.
Yes.
Arthur PBS Kids classic Arthur will begin its 25th and final season next month. Shown in 80 countries, Arthur has won 7 Emmy Awards and a Peabody. The books by Mark Brown that inspired the series have sold nearly 70 million copies since the first edition was published back in 1976. The Emmy Award-winning series will come to an end on February 21st after airing 4 new episodes in a special marathon. Arthur was the longest-running kids animated series on television, airing more than 250 episodes and a movie in its 25 seasons. Although this will conclude the making of new episodes for the series as we know it, Arthur will still be around, though, because PBS plans to create a podcast, video shorts, and digital games based on the Arthur property. So Arthur will not go away, but Arthur as we know it as a series will finally come to an end after just a wildly long run.
25 years.
25 seasons of Arthur. So there's some kids who never lived in a world that Arthur did not exist.
There are kids graduating college who've only lived in an Arthur world. Oh, wow.
Can you believe that?
I'm old.
Oh, believe it.
I am old now.
Yeah, believe it. There's probably kids that are graduating from grad school right now that have only lived in an Arthur world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, think about it that way.
I try not to.
Yeah.
But then I have like all these like existential, oh my God.
So
I am old. Time has flown by me. Where is it gone?
I mean, needless to say, it's a wonderful kind of day. So thank Arthur. So we should thank Arthur for telling us how to live and play.
Yes.
Laugh and play.
Live, laugh, and play.
Or something. Anyways, Arthur.
Yes. Those final 4 episodes, there will be a time skip.
Oh.
So you will see them in
Arthur Shippuden.
Our adult form for the final episodes.
All right. I'm ready for adult Arthur. Maybe he'll finally actually beat somebody up with that fist that he just has balled up on the side. Anyways, and maybe DW will learn how to read, so she can finally enter that room. All right, I only know Arthur memes. Anyways, let's move on to thoughts. Did you watch anything this week?
I watched a week-long kind of best of episodes of Friends on Nick at Night. Yeah. Now, I know I could just watch Friends on...
You could just watch Friends.
I could just watch Friends on HBO Max.
Oh, is that HBO Max now?
Yeah, they took it over there.
Jesus Christ, I don't know anymore.
And I have. And I could do that again.
Could do that. You could
continue. I wouldn't be able to play trivia.
Oh.
Because Nick at Night trivia this past week.
All right.
Specifically on Friends.
How good are you, turns out, at Friends trivia?
Turns out I am pretty damn good.
Okay.
But also... there are people who are really damn good.
I believe it.
It's surprising how much a show that lasted 10 years.
10 or so, yeah.
Well, that's actually one of the questions. How many seasons?
Oh, really? Okay.
Which I got right, so it's 10.
Fine.
94 to 2004.
Okay.
That lasted 10 years. How much of that you actually retained, even though it's been off the air for 18 years now?
That's because if people like Friends, they've watched Friends a lot in repeats and in streaming. So, or DVD sets, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of Friends stuff too.
But there's also a lot of Friends trivia that's not related to the show, but is tangentially related. Like if you had to have seen interviews and the reunion special and like post DVD commentary and different trivia quizzes of like who's been the most episodes in name only and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that these questions were posed to us. And I got them right because I am good at Friends. A lot of that is, like, when you think about it, actually useless trivia. But here it paid off. And yet I was nowhere near the top.
Well, there you go. Goes to show you.
Yes, I could have done more studying, I guess.
Really like brush up on your Friends. Anyway, well, that's fun.
Yeah, so it was a good week-long thing. Right. I had fun watching it. My only big gripe about it was that it aired during extremely late.
Okay.
It was 2 hours between 10 and midnight, and I'm not going to stay up for all 4 episodes.
Not for Friends, no, not worth it.
Not for the trivia. I mean, there are people who will do that, who do that.
That's true.
So, but I just watched like my hour and then like went to bed at 11 at a normal time.
Okay.
Like a normal person.
That's good.
So, yeah, I got the fun in actually doing the trivia, but also like just enough to where I'm not going to stay up for all this.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Anything else new that you watched this week?
Oh, new stuff?
Yeah, not from the 90s.
No. There's one show.
Okay.
It's Throwdown with Michael Simon, Iron Chef Michael Simon.
Oh, okay.
A new show called Throwdown, but it's the exact same concept of Beat Bobby Flay or Bobby Flay's Throwdown.
They had to come up with a replacement now that Bobby Flay left Food Network.
Yes, and they chose Michael Simon.
All right. So
exact same concept.
New? No. But is it a new host? Yes.
Yes. Is it a new chef? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I watched a new show.
You did?
I did. I went to the I guess not super familiar to the Media Boat Podcast land of Freeform to check out a new show.
Wait, this is on Freeform?
This is on Freeform.
Formerly ABC Family.
Yes, that's Freeform, believe it or not. Freeform not necessarily known for having a lot of stuff that we would care about, but I gave it a try because Hulu was throwing this at me.
The last time I watched something on Freeform, it was Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah.
And that was like the first 2 seasons before. It's just,
no thanks.
No, thank you.
Well, in the proud tradition now, this is nothing like Pretty Little Liars. I watched the first couple episodes of Single Drunk Female, which is exactly what the name makes it sound like it is. It is a show about a woman in her 20s who is an alcoholic. And after hitting rock bottom, decides to go to, finally, Alcoholics Anonymous to try to clean herself up.
Isn't this the plot of Mom?
Except not, because it's not really about the relationship between her and her mother. There is a relationship there, and there is some strained kind of issues between the two of them. It, I believe, also has a father who is deceased. Mm-hmm. So that is a plot point in the show. But it's more about focusing on kind of her recovery and her trying to get back on her feet after kind of just throwing her entire life in the trash. So she doesn't have a job. So she has that struggle. She can't drive very well. It's another struggle. She's losing her friends as there's a complication with her ex boyfriend being now engaged to her ex best friend. So that complicates some things as well. So the show kind of delves into that. But before you start thinking, wait a minute, we took a big dump on Euphoria a couple of weeks ago for feeling like similarly just delving into the darkness of substance abuse for young, and what that does to young adults. There's a difference here. This is a comedy.
Wait, is Euphoria not a comedy?
No, not at all, actually. Another note I want to say is I attempted to watch the pilot of Euphoria. And I say attempted. Yeah, I guess. I didn't even give it 10 minutes last time. I gave this time 30 minutes of a 50-minute long pilot. Holy shit, that thing's long. And I could not get through it. It was a struggle throughout. I just don't like the tone of that thing. It's just grimy and gross, and I just don't like anybody. And the way that characters talk to each other, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. So I did not enjoy Euphoria. But this show is actually kind of charming. I think it's well written. The creator herself wrote the first couple episodes, and it's very, very authored. You can feel that kind of indie film kind of like vibe where she's really trying to like have a unique voice in all her characters, and she really makes a point to like have that auteur style to it. The lead character, she's not initially super charming, but you get to like her after spending some time with her. She's definitely...
why.
It's a Jenny Conner production. I should have mentioned that.
Yeah, that's Girls. That's from Girls right there.
It's got a very similar vibe to that, except really leans heavier on the comedy. And in the freeform style, it's a little looser and it's a little more like friendly to like young adults, very aimed towards those 20-somethings who want to see their own life kind of reflected. I'm having a good time with it so far. I like it. I didn't think I was going to like it. So I'm going to continue sticking with it. It has a lot to say about recovering from alcoholism and about those relationships that you're reforming in the wake of kind of throwing your life away. So yeah, it looks like you just pulled up the creator Simone Finch's IMDb up. It looks like she did some work on The Conners recently. She used to formerly, of course, the reboot of Roseanne. So it looks like she spent a lot of time kind of on writer staffs for other shows for a while before finally nailing her first created by credit.
Yep. No, because I thought this was like Diablo Cody's next thing. When you mentioned,
it's got that vibe to it. It does remind me a lot of
because
Diablo.
I saw I've seen the commercials for it.
It's very much
and
somebody
you mentioned that it's like
to...
an indie comedy,
Yeah.
like dark comedy, like that's not like Diablo Cody's
Yes,
thing.
it seems like Simone's writing style is very influenced by Diablo Cody. I did think a lot about young adults.
Yes,
the film that
that's
also
the thing that
deals
also
with a lot
when
of
you
this
talk about it, like
content.
this sounds like young adult here.
So I'm having a good time with it. It's a little on the darker side, but I think the jokes are good enough to make up for that. And I do find myself rooting for this character. I want her to succeed, even though she's kind of lousy, but not so lousy that you don't want to watch.
Okay.
So I like it so far, even though it is not for me at all. But then again, hey, Euphoria also not for me, but I definitely don't like that. So I don't know. It's also skews a little older. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm having a good time with it. I like it so far.
Okay, that's really good.
Yeah, freeform. Who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed?
Let's move on, though.
Yeah.
That's all really I watched. So there's probably a couple more things I'll talk about next week that I need to catch up on. So
I'll talk about the championship, NFL championship games next week, and we'll find out who's in the Super Bowl next week.
In the meantime, we have cancellations and renewals to talk about.
Right. What am I no longer watching?
Nickelodeon has renewed That Girl Lele for a second season. Shrug. Showtime has canceled Black Monday after 3 seasons. They've also canceled Work in Progress after a second season. I guess it's no longer a work in progress.
It's work terminated, I guess.
HBO will be bringing back your favorite Righteous Gemstones for a 3rd season.
Yes, currently enjoying the 2nd season of that.
Yeah. Showtime has canceled American Rust after 1 season. Peacock has canceled Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol after 1 season. CBS is bringing back Ghosts for a 2nd season. The Neighborhood for a 4th season. And this is a name I haven't thought about in a couple of years. Bob Hart's Abishola for a 3rd season.
It's either the 3rd or 4th season. I couldn't remember.
Wow. That show's still on. Goes to show you.
Yeah.
Somebody is still watching Bob Hart's Abishola.
Either that or Bobby Gear's show, whatever his name is. Like, it's just like continuing to schmooze the CBS executives, say, yes, keep this working. I need a paycheck.
Who can say? We have one death to talk about real briefly here. Catherine Cates, age 73. Actress, was in recently The Many Saints of Newark, Law and Order, SVU, Shades of Blue, Seinfeld, and Orange is the New Black, among other things.
Yes.
So, prolific.
Yes. TV actress. Popped up everywhere. Yeah. One of those, I recognize that person.
Yeah. All right. That's it for television. So we can finally wrap up the show in a what I think will be a shortish
it'll definitely be short
movies section here. We start with the box office numbers. As always, your number one again this week is Spider-Man. Spider-Man No Way Home with another $14 million. That's at $720 billion. Will it make it to $1 billion domestic? It could.
No.
Actually,
I want to see where it is, like all time, real quick.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, what it is.
All right, all time grosses.
Not on the list.
Oh no, it is.
It's way down at number 4.
Yes.
So it's creeping to Avatar levels, slowly but surely.
Wait, no, this is No Way Home.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and number 4. So
yes.
Only thing above it is
Avatar, Endgame, and Force Awakens.
Yes. It may stall out here, maybe before Avatar.
Yeah, it could.
But that means it is Marvel's, the MCU's most successful movie, or second most successful movie, passing Black Panther and passing Avengers Infinity War.
No slouch. What did slouch, though? The rest of your top 5, because they cannot fight Spider-Man. The very few people.
No matter how hard they may scream.
Well, all right, Scream, and Scream was your number 2 million to movie this year with $12 million. That's sitting at 51. A respectable hit for a horror movie. They're never that expensive. Number 3, Sing 2 with another 5.7 million, 128 million domestic for that one. 4, Redeeming Love debuted with $3.5 million. And number 5, rounding out, Still the King's Man, crawling with another 1.7 million. $31 million.
It sounds disappointing, but it's still top 5 film.
Still okay. Number 8, in case you're wondering where the King's Daughter is, $720,000.
So, an article popped up about The King's Daughter.
Okay.
Turns out this was a film that tried to get made 8 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Was actually filmed 5 years ago, but couldn't find a distributor until now. It's one of those shelved movies that just sat there and sat there.
They just sent it to die because they were like, we got to put this out.
Yes.
We're losing money on this.
Yes, we're losing money by just keeping it in our vault here.
Makes sense. If those movies don't sound interesting to you, good news is Friday has a couple of releases you might care about. First up, Moonfall. What is Moonfall?
The moon is falling onto the earth. Yes.
Oh no, it's Majora's Mask.
It is.
Ah.
That's basically what it is.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it sounds stupid, but that's exactly what it is. I
believe you.
I can't make this shit up.
Well, there you go. Yeah, Moonfall, a mysterious force knocks the moon from its orbit around Earth and sends it hurtling on a collision course with life as we know it. That's all you really need to know.
Yes. Also that it's
2 hours even.
Apparently.
So there you go.
Yeah, but also that it stars Halle Berry and Patrick Wilson. And Michael Pena.
But more importantly, finally, after a year of delays, we finally get the new Jackass film, Jackass Forever, which I believe completes the Jackass saga. I believe they said this is it.
Well, yeah, because Johnny Knoxville's 50,
and he's done. And he should be done after this. So yeah, don't. So see if you want to see the old. I guess the cast of the original getting old, as well as some new faces like Machine Gun Kelly for some reason.
Yeah. I think Eric Andre also appears somewhere.
I would not be surprised. So yeah, Jackass is back in theaters this week if you care. Jackass Forever.
But if you care solely about Johnny Knoxville, you can see him in WWE's Royal Rumble.
We don't have time to get into that.
No, that is the plug for this upcoming weekend.
But anyways, let's talk about instead a couple of movie stories real briefly here. Hey, a little update about the Beatles. We talked, of course, about Peter Jackson's Get Back documentary.
You mean Media Boat favorite, award-winning favorite? Get Back?
Get Back. Well, a little special gift has been given to fans of that documentary. Peter Jackson has taken the 60-minute rooftop performance from the film and from real life and made it an IMAX event that will be in theaters this weekend only. The screening will mark the 53rd anniversary of the concert atop the Apple Corps Seville Row headquarters. Not only that, but IMAX theaters will host the screenings with a Peter Jackson Q&A broadcast via satellite simultaneously to all connected IMAX locations. If you miss that IMAX screening this weekend, don't worry, a global theatrical engagement of the 60-minute feature, The Beatles Get Back the Rooftop Concert, will also run February 11th through the 13th. The complete docuseries, The Beatles Get Back, is also going to be available on Blu-ray and DVD starting February 8th. So if you want to keep a copy forever, you can do so.
Yes, if you were worried about it
Disney Plus,
being Disney Plus being the hurdle you have to jump over.
Yeah.
2, that it would only be on Disney Plus, that you couldn't take it, show it, keep it, have it on your shelves.
Now you can.
Now you can. Add it to your Beatles collection.
Right. There you go. So yeah, check that out. Also notable is that on music streaming services, they've also put the basically pure audio from the rooftop performance on streaming services. So you can just pull that up.
I saw that as well.
Yes. All right. Second story takes us to a familiar name to the Media Boat podcast, Doug Jones.
The actor?
No. The creature character actor.
Oh.
He has been named the recipient of the inaugural The Chair Award from the Makeup Artists and Hairstylists Guild. That's, of course, Yahtzee Local 706. Quote, talk to any number of the top makeup artists and hairstylists in our industry, and they will tell you Doug Jones is a true pleasure to work and collaborate with. He is a talented, consummate professional with infinite patience while morphing into all his memorable characters. No one is more deserving of this honor, and we all wish him a heartfelt congratulations. That's Guild President Julie Sokash. So yeah, Doug Jones, I've heard his name a lot. He's very prominently featured in a lot of stories and documentaries about the industry of effects and creature design. He popped up a lot in Face Off, the sci-fi reality series.
He was in. He was the creature behind Guillermo. He also works with Guillermo del Toro a lot. He was the creature behind The Shape of Water.
Yes.
He was also in Pan's Labyrinth, the Hellboy series as well.
Basically, any weird ass creature you've seen in the last 10 years in a movie, probably Doug Jones.
Yes. And this is the inaugural award
The
of
chair.
people of actors who help bring these basically day-long makeup artists, like all their work, to life on the big screen.
Yeah.
And good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Doug Jones. And congratulations to us for another wonderful Media Vote podcast.
Oh, we're not talking about any thoughts?
No, I didn't watch any news
Okay,
this week.
no, we didn't.
No.
So I'm in part 4 of
Okay.
what's ending up being like a 10-part way of me watching Don't Look Up.
Oh, Jesus.
Because I'm only watching about 20-minute chunks.
Oh, why are you doing this to yourself?
Because I keep like having to stop and go do something else, and I can't find the time to sit down and watch it.
Well, maybe someday we will finish that and talk about it.
Maybe.
In the meantime, movies, we're kind of just keep playing catch up as we wait for stuff to come to streaming after theatrical release. And as the Oscar buzz starts to heat up, maybe we'll see some of those films as well. Try to make our own calls about what we think is going to get the big awards.
Yep, current frontrunner is Power of the Dog. So if you have not seen that on Netflix,
that dog's got a lot of power.
You can go watch it there.
That powerful ass dog.
That's a different movie. That's Cujo.
Oh. Good point. All right, but that'll do it for the Media Boat podcast.
Where's that
this
Air
week.
Bud?
That's a different kind of powerful dog.
Yes.
He's got game. That's the difference. All right. You can, of course, join us next week where we will have another episode for you. We'll talk about Mitski. We'll talk about Pokemon. We'll talk about all sorts of stuff that we don't even know we're going to talk about yet.
Oh, we'll get Super Bowl predictions next week.
We will. So keep tabs on us for next week. If you want to watch us live, you can go to YouTube, youtube.com, search Media Boat Podcast. You can find our page, like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications when we go live. You can also listen to us in audio form on podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Google Play, Spotify, maybe for now. I might rethink that after this week.
Yeah. Unlink it.
Yeah, we might want to do that. And then, and also iHeartRadio, all sorts of different sources. If you want to look us up, search Media Boat Podcast. You can also find us on social media where our handle is Media Boat Podcasts, and a lot of them. Twitter, we're actually Media Boat Cast, so check us out there. And last, but definitely not least, if you want to ask us a question, if you had feedback about the show, you can email us directly. mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com is that address.
If you have something that you think we should talk about,
yes.
Email us.
Also, recommendations. Just anything you want to say to us.
Yes,
We're all ears.
If there's an album that you are absolutely jamming to, we have not talked about on this podcast,
tell us about it.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, movie, television show, video game, anything. Just let us know. We love to interact with our community. So thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. See you next time.
Yep, we'll be back next week with our first February show. Bye-bye, January.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bathroom.
Go, leave, bye. It's free.
Why? Is that last